That was a special treat at the end of the song there.
Yeah, that was good.
This is the first episode of After Ditterments, and fair warning, if you know anyone who's on this show, you might get offended because we might be fucking talking about you. So, yeah, 4 people on this cast. Me, Kevin.
What's up? How you doing?
And 2 who are absent for the first episode because they're fucking douchebags.
Yeah, we will be talking about you, Stefan.
Stefan and Megan, who Megan has an actual commitment, but Stefan just has a sore nutsack and he's home playing with that. So. But speaking of sore nutsacks, Kevin was just bitching about the chair on the other side of the room. Saying how it hurts his back.
Here's the thing, I didn't even get into the full crust of the story. There's a chair here, everybody has seen it. It's a bamboo frame chair.
It's a papasan chair.
It's
has a name. It's a style chair.
Yeah, I'm never gonna know that.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's like a recliner. It's a chair, and it goes back, and your feet go up. You mean a recliner? I don't know what that shit's called.
It's your feet go up in the air. You sink into this thing like it's a really.
It's a bowl.
It's a bowl.
It's a bowl on a stand with a cushion.
Yes, you want to put it on.
For those of us who don't understand the concept of furniture and types of furniture.
I have no idea. Furniture. Never made it. Not like your grandpa. And so, we used to have one, and it was like having sex in the back of a Volkswagen, and it was just terrible. And it was just so uncomfortable, and I remember sleeping on it, falling asleep on it, hammered off my ass, and I would wake up in the morning and my back, my spine would be in 3 different right angles.
So I still don't understand what your problem with the fucking chair is.
It's fucking uncomfortable, dude. You can't there's no traction, there's no support. Your spine gets reversed in its trajectory. You get scoliosis. It's the most uncomfortable chair. It gets stained, smelled.
I remember that going over when I was in elementary school, and they used to make you bend over and check the line in your back. They were like, "Oh, do you have a papasan chair at home? Because you probably have fucking scoliosis now." The chair also has lice.
Exactly. Thank you.
Why the fuck did they check for lice with a popsicle stick? Why didn't they use like a comb?
I don't know what school you went to, but they checked with the comb in my school.
They didn't with me. They checked with like a tongue depressor. They pulled a tongue depressor out of a drawer and fucking like ran it over your head.
Holy shit.
There's no fucking shot finding something hiding in the root of your hair at all. They literally took.
The worst would be if the nurse just stopped licking the rest of the chocolate or the popsicle off, and then she's like, "Okay, honey, come here." It just starts parting your hair with a popsicle stick.
Sort of what it fucking felt like. There was like nothing that made sense about it. Anyway, no.
Well, they had to use that money for lice combs on school books.
They had to use it at schools who could afford it instead of my fucking poor ass school.
I tried to be there with you, but I just couldn't because I clearly remember combs. We had the nice brushed metal ones too that were really fine.
Like a dog tick comb?
Yeah, exactly.
I use that to comb my beard. It gets all the knots out.
They fucking hurt. First they dig it into your scalp and they rake your scalp back. So you get these ridges like they're growing corn. And then it pulls the hair out that it catches. It was very uncomfortable.
That didn't happen with us. I feel like the nurse maybe just didn't give a shit and didn't want to be there. So they were just like, how do I get out of here as fast as possible? They took a tongue depressor.
Like, yes, lice here.
It wasn't like a regular popsicle stick either. It was like that double wide.
Oh, it's the ones that you get with
tongue
a
presser. It's like
where it was
like the width of like 2 adult male fingers. So it wasn't getting between anything. It was just like rubbing over your head. It was like they basically tussled your hair and they were like, "Get out of here!"
Meanwhile,
like that was.
She's reading like People magazine off to the side.
Right? Yeah, like, they just didn't give a fuck at all.
You got lice.
So Kevin, I heard you got lost with Waze the other day.
Okay, yes, Waze. Fuck Waze. Alright, I got a buddy. Waze started out in California.
Okay.
Silicon Valley shit. And it grew exponentially real quick. I got a buddy of mine out in California. Really, really good friend of mine. So he kept sending me and all of our friends over here, "Hey, you guys, Waze app, Waze app, Waze app." Here's my concern with the Waze app. It is, you have to, I can't think of the fucking word I'm thinking about right now. You have to interact with the app. So you're right, I couldn't think of interact. Wow. So you're driving down the road and you're trying to look at the thing on your phone saying, where am I going? And all of a sudden a giant balloon pops up saying, is the accident still there? And it blocks you from knowing the exit you have to get off of, and the only way to get rid of it is to actually look down at your phone and interact with your phone saying yes or no. We have enough problems with people dying from texting, and now we have a Waze app that forces you to like interact with it and then possibly cause another act. You might as well just be texting the map and saying, hey, what's up, buddy? There's no fucking accident here. Let me continue. Like, what the fuck?
But you just press yes or no. It's really not that involved.
When you're driving, I don't want to have to look down on my phone and have to press a button just to clear the screen to see where I'm going again. I don't want to have to interact with it. It's there as a map guide for me to glance at and then get my eyes back on the road.
On a regular basis, I'm driving the New Jersey Turnpike while Facebooking and probably asleep.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable doing those three things at the same time.
Let me just, full disclosure, there were many, many times in my early 20s, in my early 30s, that I would drive and literally change my entire outfit, like my clothes, my pants, my shirt, whatever, while driving a manual transmission and drinking coffee at the same time. I can't do that anymore.
That's because you don't drive anymore.
I don't. All right, fair enough. But it doesn't mean that that's the way that you should have the app interact.
Okay.
It's not safe!
But that's what the basis of the app is. You're interacting with it.
It's
and
like,
then based on the continuous,
we're gonna make you unsafe.
But based on the continuous feedback, it updates everybody else to say there's still traffic, go the other way.
Beyond the fact that Google sucks regarding that they send you 7 miles out of your way to get to your destination, their traffic reporting is on point. Why does Waze force interaction when they don't have to?
What? Because they don't not have to.
If Google can do it without...
Google owns Waze, by the way.
They recently acquired.
It's been like
4 months.
No, it's been longer than that. No. It's been like a year.
No way.
Yeah.
Google it.
I can't without losing this.
Right.
No, it's been like a year.
Alright, maybe it's been that long. I don't know. But still, bullshit.
Okay.
That's my problem with Waze. I don't want to have to sit there and look down at my phone all the while not braking in time to smack into the Lamborghini in front of me and have lose my insurance.
Where are you driving that you're following all these Lamborghinis?
There was one Lamborghini mentioned. Just
you're following these Lamborghinis while you're looking at this app and fucking pressing buttons.
Also, it's too cartoony. Like, what's with all those ghost bubbles?
That does annoy me. Although for a while I was really into running over road goodies, and I would sometimes go out of my way to run them over to.
I clearly haven't used the app enough because I have no idea what road goodies.
Yeah, they put like fucking pineapples and soccer balls and shit on the road. And if you
Is this Mario Brothers?
You go out of your way to run them over on the map, and you get points. I don't know what they mean. I don't know if they fucking do anything or add up to anything, but.
So it's essentially a Nintendo game.
Yeah, it's like there's a game, and you're like somehow competing. I'm totally talking out of my ass. You're somehow competing with other drivers to acquire points by running over things on the road while you're texting and driving and letting everybody know where the pothole is.
Right, yeah, so that doesn't add to, it's in the lane next to you, so let me cut off people to get a fake pineapple and cause an accident.
The one thing that makes me really fucking crazy about it, the two things, there's two, which is more than one.
Which is the one thing.
Which is the one thing.
The one thing is that there are two things that really piss me off about the three things about this app.
So, driving to work, I work in Hoboken. Driving to work, as you go over the road, you leave Jersey City. There's one main road that goes through both. Circle around to the right. It's called Observer Highway, and there's a pothole that literally stretches 2/3 of the road. It's more or less unavoidable.
Right.
And it's like Waze is alerting me every fucking 5 seconds that there's a pothole, except that pothole. So really, there's two problems here. One, 7 or 8 million fucking people have driven over this pothole, and no one, including me, has told Waze that there's a pothole the size of fucking a small island in the middle of the fucking road there.
Right. It's more like a sinkhole than it is a pothole.
Right. And two, after driving there every day for 3 years, I still don't remember there's a pothole, and I slam through it at like 55 and a 25 and go, boom! And I go, what the fuck? And I fucking, my phone, which has my Waze app on it, which I don't need because I know exactly where the fuck I'm going,
You've done it a million times.
falls off of my fucking dashboard and into my pocket, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on with Waze?
So, do you find your utilization of it? Do you find that it's more useful on highways and near places like New York or Hoboken? Like, you drive a lot in Philadelphia too, like on the weekends. Have you found, not that you would use it, but if you do use it, do you feel that Philly would be as interactive with its reporting?
I almost never use it
Because you know where you're
in
going.
Philly. I don't really use it that often
The
unless
is what triggers
you know what it is.
is
I'll turn it on if I see traffic backed up.
to see how far
To see how far backed up it is and if there's a faster route. And that's actually the other point of the thing that makes me fucking crazy is I drive the New Jersey Turnpike almost every single day. And 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's total fucking gridlock no matter what, especially around, exit 13 where Newark is. And to route you around it, it will route...
Yeah, Bayonne's like 14 or 12.
Yeah, it'll route you over into New York, down through New York.
Over?
Yeah, it'll take you off of the turnpike, over the Verrazano, over the Goethals, down through Queens and Staten Island, back over through Outer Bridge Crossing. And those 3 bridges are about a $14 toll a piece.
That right there is Google Maps influence.
So now instead of fucking...
That's exactly what
Now instead of like circling around and taking Route 9 and jumping back on like to the Parkway or something, which would take a little bit longer, but not longer than what I'm doing,
Right.
would also not cost me fucking $46
Well, you could
to-
technically get off at Bayonne and then
to
drive
still spend...
20 minutes back into Bayonne.
I'm still spending about the same amount of time in traffic.
Right.
I'm just continuously moving. I might as well fucking sit in traffic and wait for it to end.
Now that you bring that up, I'm about to bring up Tesla's new car.
The self-driving one?
Well, no. Do you know about that? It's not self-driving. It's, Yeah.
There's some concept, I think it's Tesla, that's out there, that it's self-driving and there's some sort of software in it. I'm gonna totally steal a joke here from
Please.
another podcast, and I don't give a fuck. Where it reads the speed limit sign and then adjusts your speed to the speed on the speed limit sign. I guess you could set it to be like 5 miles lower or whatever, stay in the range, and it senses the car in front of you. But I just feel like it would be so easy to just like change the numbers around and change like a 35 to an 85, so you're just fucking
just a little graffiti.
cruising down a side street, and all of a sudden, just you're looking at your phone, fucking texting, not paying attention because the car's driving itself, and now you're just like Bring the fucking car behind you. There's no chance of fucking stopping before you hit the other car with those automatic brakes. It's just, you're done. You're fucked. That's it. You're out. Actually,
that is funny.
Chelsea knows someone who bought a Tesla yesterday, and they were posting all over Facebook, putting pictures. Here's my new car. Here's my new Tesla.
Well, I remember you wanted one.
I think they're nice cars. I don't think I would want one anymore because of they only get like 300 miles to a charge, which means I'd be charging every other day with how often I drive.
Okay.
So it doesn't work for me.
How much would you spend for charging? You would park it here, you would charge it or not?
It's not how much you would spend, it's the inconvenience of charging.
Okay.
Like I just,
I'll give you that. Yeah,
if I have to drive,
that's one of the biggest issues is charging is still not as convenient. They have these charger locations where you can literally go in,
which are often behind Barnes and Noble, which I do think is
they?
fucking brilliant.
I did notice that. That is you
read a book, drink a coffee while your car's charging.
It takes over an hour for you to get over 50%, between 50 and 75% of battery full.
It takes like 3 hours for a full battery.
But it has the same thing as cell phones does, where it's fast charge immediate, where you get like up to 20 or 50% within a half an hour.
Yeah.
And then X over. But whoever spends a half an hour at a gas station to get gas?
No one.
Right.
And that's the thing. You would have to plan your life around charging this car.
So wait, real quick. You said it. I think the bottom of the line gets something like 200 miles per charge, right?
Yeah.
The average gas tank is 12 gallons.
Yeah.
Right, and average roads we'll say like 21 miles per gallon.
Yeah.
So 21 times 12 is 252 miles. So if something can have around the same miles per gallon for a full tank, that's pretty impressive.
I guess so. I get I don't even know what I get on my car. I get like 32.
Okay.
On the highway, so it's like I fill my tank about every 3 or 4 days, depending on how much
At least, given how much you drive. Sure.
Yeah, if I like work from home, then it's like every 4 days. But I would have to charge it every other day because it would run out.
Yeah.
Before I could recharge it. So it's not like I would get to empty and be like, I'm shit out of luck. But if I didn't charge it at least every other day, I would
that warning of
die on the second day.
X number of miles left.
So it wouldn't be worth it. But so this guy who she knows who bought the Tesla was posting pictures like, hey, here's my fucking sick new car.
Right.
7 hours later.
No shit.
Posts a picture of it on the back of a fucking tow truck.
Seriously?
With like the whole front end and front quarter panel just like fucked up or ripped off, the wheels caved in.
What?
I don't know what happened, but fucking like $70,000 car for like 6.5 hours before it got destroyed. Right. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the reason I brought it up in the first place is because they literally just released, last night, about 24 hours ago, they finally released the full imagery and specs on their 35,000 base.
Oh, the low end one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's supposed to get at least, I think the base model. There's a base model with one engine, and there's the upgrades, options always. It's going to end up costing, the average person's going to get the double engine.
Right.
So it's going to end up costing people like $50,000 anyway.
Right.
But even the base model ends up having like 200 plus horsepower, gets 250 miles per charge. Pretty much a standard sedan that you would find in most cars, you know, but zero emissions, high torque, obviously. And
I feel like it's a really good car if you don't really drive.
So somebody like me who lives in the city and takes trips or goes to the supermarket, which is literally less than 2 miles away from me, would be perfect.
Or someone who lives in the suburbs and works 10 minutes from home.
Right.
And,
you're like
putting...
they're in Berwyn, they're going over to Devon.
Yeah,
or
you're putting fucking 10 miles on your car.
Or hey, I'm in Paola, or I'm in Devon, I'm going to Villanova.
Right.
Like,
It could a charge will last you like 2 weeks, and then you're...
Those are mainline towns outside of Philadelphia.
They're a charge will last you like fucking a week and a half.
Right.
You can go without putting gas, but I put fucking gas like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
3 times a day, 3 times
That's
a week.
A lot. Yeah. Well.
And that's with...
I don't know. I'm still on the bandwagon because I still think that there's the push because of Tesla, the immediacy of larger corporations, larger car companies to put something out has been become a priority.
Right.
So you have Chevy, you have Ford, you have Chrysler. All of these guys are putting out something. I mean, Chevy's been the most prominent, I think, at least for as advertising is concerned, as far as getting something out first as a competition. They're still not going to be able to compete just for the mere fact that Tesla is still a brass ring car company.
Yeah. They're the Mercedes of the electric car.
Right. And, I mean, deservedly so. I mean, they still hold up to a build quality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Tesla. It's just
you go on Jalopnik, you go on
totally
J-Leno,
impractical.
You go to Road and Track, you go to Motor Trend. Like all of these companies still hold Tesla as the gold standard.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Elon Musk. Period.
Well, because he's a fucking genius.
But fucking Armageddon hits, you run out of electricity.
Right, you're gonna need some old dinosaur bones
I could still find a way to fucking knock off a gas station, but if the power grid's down, You're shit out of luck.
That actually leads to a really interesting debate that has been going on for the last couple of years, at least the last year and a half. On a side note, I spend a lot of my time, I was almost going to say free time, but I don't allow my time to be free. I spend a lot of my time researching anything that I find interesting or intriguing or whatever, and a good amount of that for my entire life has been the car industry, have been cars, so I follow, and I'm no expert, and there's people who have read way more than I have, who are way more in depth than I am. But I know enough and I follow enough and I read enough that I'm able to speak confidently about this, that one of the biggest questions and debates going out right now, and has been for the last at least year and a half strongly, and then in the shadows prior to that, is there still room? Like, everybody knows that the electric vehicle is inevitable. It's coming, it's going to be a thing, it's going to be the thing. It's kind of like what automatic was to manual transmission back in the day. At one point it's an option, but eventually it's going to become the standard. So at what point does combustion engines become obsolete? Do they come so expensive to run because gas doesn't get produced anymore? Where is that in our future? Is that 20 years, 50 years, 100 years down the line? And it's actually a really interesting debate because things, as much as things have progressed in the Industrial Revolution, since the 80s, cancel everything before the 80s, since the introduction of the real personal computer, which happened in the early 80s, how fast things have evolved. Who's to say something like that can't actually happen in the automobile industry? And how quickly can that become a thing? So is there room? Will that be a thing?
I think it depends realistically on a number of things. I don't think it's about gas being expensive.
No,
I think it's about electric being cheap. I think when it becomes practical to own a car like that, because you can, get 1,000 miles away without having to recharge.
Right.
It's a number I'm pulling out of my ass, but
But it's not. It's not an absurd number. Like,
right.
Actually,
if you're someone like me who has a giant commute, you can't go.
If
You can't go to work and back twice without recharging your car. So it's that practicality. It's it's also just the build quality of lower end electrical vehicles, so that there's more of an availability. Once it becomes more readily available.
Which is what Tesla's trying to do.
Right, but car companies don't want it to happen. That's the thing. I mean, you look at.
Well, that's the base of the argument. How hard can you fight the tide?
Pretty hard. I think you fight the tide pretty hard.
I've got my own ideas on both sides of the menu, and I agree with you overall that it's going to be a really long time before that becomes the standard, and a big part of that is going to be things like loyalty, tradition, and classic nature, especially with the way that classic culture in automobile history has become so prevalent and so expensive. Nobody's going to want to put that money forward for no reason.
Right.
But when I mentioned earlier about the idea that gas becoming expensive, it wasn't because it wouldn't be produced enough. It's because electric would be so
cheap,
prevalent and cheap and the normal that plants would close. And in order to make gasoline, because now there's only 3 plants that do it versus 10,000, then of course they're going to charge more because they're the only ones that do it. And you're going to pay for it because you still want to drive your 1984 Porsche, or your 1972 Impala or whatever. People are still going to pay the money. It's like smoking. You want to do it. You're going to do it. And for me personally, when it comes to that, I will pay the money for the gas just because I want to drive those cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People love their cars.
Yeah.
It's why people who live it's why people live in Philadelphia and own a car instead of taking mass transit, where they could easily get anywhere in under an hour.
And the thing is, this argument has nothing to do with global warming. It has absolutely nothing to do with a minor to do.
It does, in the sense that
the reason why
people
we're going to electric
love their cars more than they love being alive.
Right.
So fucking.
But the idea.
It's just like
right.
World's gonna end. Fuck it. I like my car.
The same people, right? The same people on the picket line saying the glaciers are melting, the glaciers are melting, are going to go home and they're going to have their collector car in the garage, and then they're going to take their Audi S5. With 430 horsepower out for their weekend drive. Like it's
a weird fucking juxtaposition that's what I find with everybody who I don't mean everybody, but a lot of people who fucking shove that, and I don't mean that bullshit because
vegans. Sorry.
I don't mean that bullshit like with a negative connotation, but people who are just, I think we should be more energy conscious. I think we should be destroying fossil fuels. I agree with all that. We have solar. Yes. We could power everything between what is it? Fucking not Iowa. Is it Iowa? North Dakota. There's enough.
That's a little farther north.
Whatever. There's enough
not much, but enough.
Highland area in North Dakota that if we
what else is happening in North
covered certain ranges with windmills, it would provide enough electricity for the entire country.
Seriously?
So when you hear shit like that, you're like, well, it doesn't even fucking make sense to not do it. But there are entire fucking industries rallying against it, and it's this whole socio-political, economical fucking thing.
Now
and what you see,
arguments of jobs.
But that's what I mean,
right.
And it's just it's when you think about the people who are, and again, like I'm so pro solar, so pro wind, so fucking anti-fracking. They tried to put that Penn East pipeline bullshit fucking less than a mile from my house. It would have polluted our whole fucking water supply in Trenton and Hopewell and Ewing, and
well, that shit would have kept running down towards
towards you. And I was totally against that. I'm fucking so pro natural energy and sustainable renewable energy that it's insane. But at the same time, it's not a highlight topic conversation for me, mainly, and not because I don't believe in it, but mainly because I find the people who are shoving it down everyone else's throats are the biggest fucking hypocrites about it I know. In just broad scale, you know, it's this ideology that fucking, and this is, you know, I don't want to go off on like 400 different tangents because this conversation could take a whole ton of fucking directions, but you look at the people who are environment, and typically they are people who align themselves and loudly and proudly with a liberal / progressive ideology. Mm-hmm. You know,
always about next, not about past, not about why,
right?
But about why not,
right? And you know, conversely, the whole standpoint of, you know, we can't change the energy because we need our jobs. We can't change it, you know, by there. It's all these companies with this incredibly unionized labor systems that turn around and protest, and we're gonna put the line in, you know, protest fucking natural power plants opening, and fight to keep fracking lines being built and oil wells being built and all these unionized jobs, which are, by the way, a liberal and progressive fucking institution. So it's not that they're the same people, it's that there's the same group of people up top manipulating fucking competing ideologies. And it's why I don't participate or believe in politics. You know, I do have strong political viewpoints, but I don't even bother expressing them because I think the whole thing's a joke. I think the whole thing's a fucking sham. And if you are not perceptive enough to see that there's just one group of business engineers, of businesses, social engineering the debates that everybody has amongst themselves and running away with all the fucking money, that the very same group of people who's like, get rid of fossil fuels are the same, or so have the same exact political affiliations as the people who are like, we can't get rid of this because it'll fucking cost us our jobs. How do you not see that? How do you not take that for what it is and accept it? And every like super environmentalist I know, they're driving giant fucking Audis. They're driving these fucking massive fucking vehicles. None of them have a Tesla. None of them have everyone who I know drives
the same idea as people who do fundraisers for the networking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially. I mean, there's a guy in North Jersey, Paul Miller, who works for the New Jersey Green Council, and I've had to do business events with him, and he is a fucking dickbag. I hope you're listening to this, Paul Miller. Dude,
we'll send him a personal
fucking dickbag. Anyone who's listening to this doesn't know I run a restaurant company, and we have a lot of environmental and sustainable initiatives. And he wanted to do an event where our restaurant was one of the co-sponsors. And just an example of what a fucking dick he is. He tried to pull off some shit where all 50 vendors at this event would dump off their compostable trash in my restaurant's dumpster.
What?
After one day of service, he was like, "You guys can handle that, right?" I'm like, "No, go fuck yourself."
Yeah, fuck you.
Call the green fucking disposal company, Solterra, Jersey Central Waste. Fucking call them. Tell them you're doing a sustainable event. You want the sponsorship, and they'll get the recognition too. You're not fucking using my trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he literally asked us to go pick up all the trash from every vendor at the event, 50 vendors, bring it back to our fucking restaurant, throw it. First of all, how the fuck am I going to do that?
This guy sounds a lot like Jay.
Second of all, no, exactly. Second of all, we're in a parking lot with other restaurants, other co-tenants, a grocery store,
Right.
that are obviously going to complain about the giant overflow of trash out of there.
Right.
And oh, by the way,
So it was an afterthought, is what happened.
he forgot and was trying to shove it down on everybody else, and he
You
was
guys are the least of the
super pissy about the fact that I was like, no, we're not going to do that.
But you should be grateful.
Mr. Green, Mr. Environment. Hey, by the way, do you know where he makes his fucking money?
Good.
He owns Bentley, Audi, and Land Rover dealers.
Oh, nice.
So Mr. fucking Environment
Very
is
nice.
selling fucking Bentleys and Land Rovers, and then coming around and bitching at us
V12,
because,
V10,
we're not
V12s.
sustainable enough for
Right.
you. Suck a dick. Like,
Let's
and
kill
that's
7 cows for our leather and Bentley.
he's an extreme fucking
okay with that.
he's an extreme example, but on a smaller scale, people who I just know in normal day to day, who I don't have business relationships with, or some of them who I do, are like environment, and meanwhile they're driving fucking tanks of a vehicle. Like, shit, dude, I got a big car. I get a big fucking car. It's shit that makes the amount of gas my car takes look like fucking nothing by comparison. And that's what I find. It's just the hypocrisy is astounding, and I feel the same. It's one of those things where it's like, I agree with the belief, I agree with the ideology, but I don't even want to discuss it, because I feel like the majority of people who talk about it only talk about it so that they can place themselves on some sort of moral high ground and talk to other people. And I feel that way about fucking most things, that people just want to have the moral high ground. And I'm painting with a broad brush. I don't mean this way as I don't mean to make as broad a generalization as I'm making, but there's so many like sets of beliefs, like especially social beliefs, where it's like, I'm only saying this shit so I could take the moral high ground and fucking be offended by people who don't agree and fucking put everyone down.
I mean, just the idea of devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Is that somebody can take what you just said and put the same point on you. That you're saying that, and I'm not saying that, because I actually I agree. I'm just devil's advocating that someone could turn around and say to you, well, you're not taking a stance and you're saying these things because the hypocrisy in itself. Like it fits the same argument back at you. It's like 0.13 back, fingers pointing.
But how so? What the fuck just happened to my voice?
I don't know.
How so?
Well, we mean how so? Can they?
Yeah,
I
I don't see entirely where you're going.
Well, say your point again.
That despite sharing those beliefs, I have a tendency to just intentionally never discuss them with anybody, because even though I'm pro-sustainable energy, pro-renewable resources, I find that the majority of the people who share that belief with me don't share it in their actual practices and only espouse it as much as they do so that they could take a moral high ground.
Okay.
So it's kind of like,
the idea that
by comparison, it's kind of like when you like a band, but everybody who likes that band is a fucking asshole, so you have a hard time listening to them. That's kind of what it's like.
So the idea of somebody having hypocrisy but still taking the moral high ground because of spouting something, you are purposely taking a stand of boycotting to obtain a moral high ground, even though it's guaranteed that there's hypocrisy. Because there's guaranteed hypocrisy.
But it's not boycotting. It's not boycotting.
Well,
it's practicing where you can.
Again, remember, I'm not attacking you.
No, I'm not taking it that way.
I'm solely being a devil's advocate of saying your argument can reverse back onto you by you taking a moral high ground because you won't interact or you won't have a compromise. Like some people might argue that their initiatives, they're spouting is a compromise in their own lives and how to approach the situation the best that they can. So they'll still vocalize it, but they can't necessarily live that way verbatim. And it's really hard to be able to...
But do you think...
Just on a side note, it's really hard to be able to just say, I can take this stance and live this way completely and change every aspect of my life in doing so.
See, I feel...
And again, these are all extremes, and none of this really lies in extremes, but this is where arguments go. Arguments go to the extremes. And that's the unfortunate part of it. Everybody runs and spends 10 hours on the outskirts of something rather than 20 minutes on the inside of it. But my point still being, you have to be open to that.
No, I sort of see your point. It's not actively boycotting a position because I don't like the people who hold that position.
Right.
It's participating in a way that you can because you think it's...
Do what you can through action, not through voice.
Right. Like, vote with your dollar, do what you can,
Huge proponent of vote with your dollar.
Yeah, vote with your dollar.
Absolutely.
Vote with your... is the only fucking vote that counts.
We're gonna
whole different fucking conversation.
Yeah, because the whole thing earlier with the whole policy, we're gonna channel that to another discussion because we that's a whole rabbit hole that we can go down in another. The fact that people having that same mindset is the reason why it's like which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Closing out the same point though. Education exists, information is out there, and it's not that you should not share the information because people only get it that way, but the fucking bullshit social activism that surrounds it does more harm than good because it turns otherwise intelligent people off and against it rather than rallying to the side. Like, I know people...
Tangenting into a completely different area.
No, I don't think so. I think it's because that's what shapes my opinion about it. So... To give you an example, and
but you're going, because you're starting to take something that's an ideology, a purpose, into action, and the action is a completely different discussion, because the action, there are so many different facets on how you could enact a purpose, and now we're getting a discussion of which is the most effective. And
no, I'm not getting into that discussion at all.
Oh, okay.
Even a little bit. For example,
yes.
I know someone extremely well who is extremely intelligent, one of the smartest people I know, who will remain nameless because we'll probably absolutely listen to this, and other people who know them will absolutely listen to this. So, people who know them won't know it's them, but they'll know it's them. Anyway.
I don't think you're being vague enough.
I'm being vague. Easily one of the most intelligent people I know. But because...
He's talking about me.
Because they are so... Like, when I say I'm turned off by people shoving their bullshit down my throat, so much more turned off by it than I am, that they literally, on a very regular basis, post like things on Facebook, like denying global warming. It's like
to start a conversation.
No, just to be an asshole. Not to start a conversation, to start an argument with people, to get those to get people come on board and be like, yeah, it's fucking bullshit, none of it's true, there's no proof, blah, blah, blah. And then to get like other people who are typically relatives of this person to argue with them and, and start this. And like, it's just this marriage. Dude, I have beliefs. I have strong fucking beliefs that I'm pretty committed to. But this, this marriage to your beliefs that you are just unwilling to consider facts that are in front of your face. And it's like, to look at somebody that's otherwise in every other scenario in life, like, socially intelligent, book smart, respected, successful, And then, you know, and they are very conservative, and, you know, I'm pretty I'm pretty moderate. I guess I would be a libertarian, but whatever. But I'm relatively conservative myself. But, like, there's a difference between, like, you know, I would typically side with a Republican point of view, and there's no fucking such thing as global warming, which is totally this person's perspective. And it's also the perspective of a lot of people I know. And it's a combination of, like, I buy into... I'm joining... I say this way too often. This is a different tangent. But I'm joining a team, and I'm believing everything that fucking team says, which I have a total problem with.
Nothing makes me
But
angry.
it's also
That's not true.
the
It does make me
team
pretty angry.
the team that this person picked. They picked because the people on the other side just irritate him that much, because the other side tends to be the side that's like cramming your fucking beliefs down the throat.
That sounds anxious. That sounds...
For that example, well, it is angry. That's for damn sure. I didn't say they weren't angry and irrational. I said they were intelligent. Those are not. They're not. I don't know. I don't know why you assume those are mutually exclusive.
And intelligent do actually go hand in hand at certain points. So I will give you that.
They're not mutually exclusive
Right, no,
by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, like, so I don't go to that ridiculous extreme, but I know a lot of people do, and I see it on both sides, and like. I don't know if that pushes me towards the middle.
Right.
But I think it's just that everyone's point of view, regardless of what it's about,
I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Go ahead.
annoys me so fucking much that I don't like to talk to them about anything.
I was
Like,
honestly hoping
in probably in all seriousness, I think I'm at a point where the only people that I feel like are intelligent enough that I can have a fucking conversation with them are the people that are associated with this show and my friend Ken. And other than that, no one else is fucking, you know, and the thing is, I don't think I'm fucking special. I just think everyone's really fucking stupid on a grand scale.
It's that everybody else thinks that they're special.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I don't think anyone's special.
No.
And I don't exclude myself from that fucking group.
But, and that, I will say, is a tangent for another conversation about the ability of entitlement from someone's being raised or their life, as the assumption that they deserve.
Right.
But don't even get me fucking started on that shit, because especially working in the industries that you and I work, it's, oh my god, how many times have you heard this? I don't get paid enough, or it's not my job.
The fucking...
Right. So, coming full circle. The argument, the idea of, you know, combustion engines versus electric engines, how long will combustion engines survive or grasp onto reality before electrical engines or alternative energy engines become beyond.
You know, when it's really clear. Like I said, you know, practical this that a major company has to find a way for it to actually be more profitable for them. That's when the point of change is going to happen.
That's the problem. It has become a potentially profitable item. One of the first cars ever made was an electric car.
Oh, yeah.
Back in like 1912 or some shit. Like,
that's the reason we don't have that fucking ethanol. Do you know like the whole
Preach, brother.
fucking John Rockefeller. John Rockefeller is the reason that you don't have ethanol. He's also the reason for prohibition. Obviously, ton of fucking oil money. And Henry Ford came out and he made this statement.
By the way, not automobile oil, lamp oil.
No. Petroleum.
Lamp oil was where he made his major money right before anything else. He sold kerosene in lamp oil this was just before light bulbs. He essentially lit the entire fucking country.
At the same time, though, he was the major petroleum supplier to the country. So he was also selling the petroleum to companies that were converting it into gasoline. So, that said,
Yeah.
Rockefeller Plaza didn't get built on nothing. That said, Henry Ford came out, I don't want to, I'm going to totally butcher the statement, but basically,
it's okay, I butcher everything.
Basically, came out and said, all of our cars can totally run on alcohol, and it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be more efficient, and engines are actually more efficient that burn alcohol than burn gasoline. At least they were at the time that this was going on. And the Rockefeller actually funded all of the fucking propaganda to begin to make alcohol illegal, including Prohibition. Prohibition basically happened because of Rockefeller, because people realized, because he realized that you could just take any fucking source of alcohol and use it to fuel your vehicle, and then he's not that he's no longer a fucking.
They can fuel your vehicle, then they can fuel anything else.
Multi-billionaire, but
right.
that income stream, that revenue stream stops coming in.
Take a huge
So
hit, sure.
You
have to close factories, you have to fire a number of people.
So one, he's the reason for Prohibition, because the people that the same way he used petroleum to both manufacture lamp oil and gasoline, the companies that were supplying the initial alcohol companies, like liquor companies, people who were manufacturing beer, wine, liquor, were not wine, but beer and liquor, were the same companies that were manufacturing ethanol, because they had the supply, and they were selling it to the companies that supply. So by shutting those companies down, he was no longer allowing ethanol manufacturers their supply. So he funded Prohibition, shut down the importing and distribution of alcohol legally.
I'll tell you.
Legally, he's the reason that fucking isopropyl is what do they put in it? Is a non-distillable alcohol, because they combine it with because that was one of the first things. Well, people are going to drink rubbing alcohol. Yeah. Well, not if you put so. You used to be able to in the 1920s. You could. And then they added the chemical compound that is non-distillable, so you can't distill the alcohol and put it in any other drink or drink it straight, because it'll fucking kill you.
Yeah.
He's the reason for that, all because he didn't want to fucking... All because he fought the tide. And this is what I mean about fighting the tide. When you said, how long can you fight the tide? How hard can you fight the tide? Well, pretty fucking hard if you're that powerful.
Right.
Because you could shut the whole fucking shit down. And that's what he did. Until this day, we are literally on fossil fuels right now because of Rockefeller. There's a documentary on it.
I absolutely want to see it.
It's called oh God, How Big Oil Bought the World, or something like that, or How Big Oil Control. Fuck, I'm gonna have to look it up. I really don't know. I'm gonna look it up now. In a similar way, though, you look at
I mean, we're talking about a time where it was also still technically legal, and the reason why it became illegal for things like monopolies between Carnegie, Rockefeller, even technically Ford, even though he kind of came after the cusp of the whole legal issue.
How Big Oil Conquered the World.
Text that to me.
It's a 1 hour and 11-minute documentary on John Rockefeller and...
Seriously, text that to me.
I'm going.
Is that Netflix?
YouTube.
No, perfect.
It's probably on Netflix.
No, I got YouTube too. Apple TV has...
Oh, you have YouTube?
Did you know that was free? YouTube's free?
This is totally unrelated and triggered. Yeah, I bought my mother and stepfather gift certificates to float in float tanks.
Yeah.
For Christmas, and they just used them today.
Literally today.
My mother's afraid of everything. Like, she's dude terrified of everything. It's just like, not like, what's that?
It's like,
Yeah, sorta.
yeah.
But not totally. Like,
No, Kate's worse.
like she hasn't like, how do I fucking put it? She hasn't adapted to the modern
She's
world.
Sheltered.
She's the daughter of immigrants. Yeah, sheltered. She's daughter of immigrants. You
She's
know,
lived in the same town area for her whole life.
general area. You know, grew up in Trenton, moved to
Yeah.
Hamilton, stayed there forever. Daughter of immigrants. You know, very fucking old school Catholic family. Like,
Yeah, because why wouldn't religion be a part?
right. Well, you know, it's like that doesn't
Yeah.
play into it as much as that doesn't play into it as much as just the fact that she was like pretty sheltered. So things just like tend to not scare her, but like intimidate her. So we got her the float tank of stiffness because she's always complaining about her back. She's like, my back hurts, my back hurts. She's like going to the, oh hell yeah, because it relaxes the shit out of you. Like you don't use your muscles. You're in there and like
Yeah,
like.
but even if your body is dead weight, that doesn't mean that your body's aligned correctly.
No, but what it does mean, and this is why this is really the reason that I keep going back to it, because
Don't get me wrong, I want to try it. I just have
yeah, but you know, all of like you take all the bullshit out of it. You take the like you see things in there and fucking you get high before you go in, and it's you know it's like you're tripping about drugs. Like you take all that out of it. The reality is you're not supporting your own weight at all, but not like in a way where you know you lay on your bed and you have like pressure spots, or even you like lay on a hardwood floor, which is supposed to be the best thing for your back. You're still using stabilizer muscles, like those little things around your spine. You go in the tank for an hour and 30 minutes, you're literally not even using stabilizer muscles. So when you get out, you feel so relaxed and so supple. And that's the reason that I was like, all right, I'm going to get this for you, like Jersey Sheets. And she was like, all morning, like today was the day she's texting me. She's like, am I going to drown? Am I going to drown? I was like, yeah, that's how these places stay in business, because so many of their clients fucking drown. I was like,
the obituaries.
She was like, she texted me.
Survived by
She texted me and Chelsea. Exactly. Death by flotation tank. If flotation tank fell on you, you'd be pretty fucked. But
yeah, true.
But she's texting me. She's texting me and Chelsea. She's like, "Am I gonna?" She said, like, not even like, "Is it safe? Is there anything that happened?" She says
bath salts than she would be
directly,
bath salts.
and I quote, "Am I going to drown?" Yeah. That's what I got you for Christmas.
Right,
I'm drowning you.
Remember to put me in your will, by the way. Just
Fucking,
out there.
it's like that's how they stay in business, because most of their clientele pays and never fucking comes back. If they can't tell anyone else what a bad experience it is. Did she text me like an hour?
Can you imagine like just a picture of somebody coming up on like one of those bad detective shows or something like, yeah, hi, we're here looking for so and so. Yeah, they were here, but then they left. I don't know what happened to them. But while you're here, for a special introductory price, come on in. $20, you get the float yourself.
She texted me like an hour later. She was like, I can't believe how much I liked it. She's like, I told the lady I was nervous, and she was making fun of me for being scared, which like made me relax more. She's like, I felt like I slept for like 8 hours. She's like, I've never felt so good after something.
Yeah.
And I was like, good, because I wholeheartedly expect her to be like, oh, it was dark, it was wet,
Right.
like, which is like my favorite fucking scenario to be in.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, this was the best thing. She's like, I can't wait to do it again. I was like totally surprised. I mean, just for a point of reference, you're talking about someone who doesn't drive outside of the town they live in, like will not operate a motor vehicle outside of the 10 streets they know, and
Okay.
went and willingly locked herself in a dark tank full of water.
I'm making that hand gesture that you do when you say that your mind is blown, like you put it up against your head and then you expand it out it's like an octopus I am dumbfounded by the fact that someone will not drive.
Doesn't
past
drive.
X number of miles from their own.
Yeah, she doesn't drive
astounding.
she doesn't drive more than 10 minutes away, and she never has. Never. Any time in my life where we've gone more than 10 minutes away, some that I've gone with her, like as a kid, someone else was driving, either my dad when they were together, or her husband, or fucking like my aunt or something. It's just, she's always leased her cars and fucking puts no miles on them. It's an easy way to do it. There's nothing on them. Like if we would take day trips to the beach, like we never went on vacation. We would always take day trips. Fucking honestly, it's like, why would you when you live 45 minutes from the beach?
Right.
But
go to a beach here versus a beach somewhere else.
yeah, and what's the difference?
Right.
But yeah, there's sand, there's water, you're good.
I mean, anyway.
But yeah, like we would take a day trip to the beach, and if it was a day that like my dad was working, or whatever, like we would find someone else to go so they could drive. And fucking, that's what we did, because she would not drive. She would drive, like she wouldn't drive past the mall. That was it. Like
That's so crazy.
the end of it. And forget over the bridge, dude. For like,
What, into PA?
dude, you can see Pennsylvania from that window.
I was gonna say, it's right there.
Not gonna happen. Would not go over that
Wow.
fucking bridge. Would not
It's
go
like
over
the
that
Hatfield
bridge.
and McCoys, but without the gun violence.
It was yeah, but could navigate her way around Trenton like a fucking champ.
Right.
Like
Blindfolded
knows roads that after living here for fucking half of my life, I've never fucking been down. And
Right.
well, honestly, just because she's so familiar with like the area, will totally fucking drive her car through a fucking through an MS-13 neighborhood and be like, oh, I grew up around the corner. Like, excited to tell me about like the bakery that used to be on this corner and the tailor that used to be over there. And I'm like,
Oh, you still live there.
yeah, I'm like, that guy's pointing a gun at your car because it's too nice to be in this neighborhood. Could you fucking drive faster? But like says shit to me like, why do you want to move back to Philly? It's dangerous there. I'm like, do you fucking realize you grew up in Trenton? Like,
Right.
But no, like it's familiar, it's local, and it's unintimidating. But like it's like anything outside of the four walls.
You know what? I think if my mom didn't meet my dad in college,
Mhm.
very, very quick backstory. My mother is from South Philadelphia. My father's from New York. My mother went to Cabrini College out in the main line outside in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My father went to Villanova. They met while they were in college. If it wasn't for meeting my father, like right now they live 18 miles away from the house that my mother grew up in. So it's not like she's still so far away, but she is far enough. 18 miles is a lot of distance. And it is, I mean, my mother went from saying water to washer. Like she added an H somewhere. I don't know how, but she did. But even 18 miles, which is in the grand scheme of nothing, if she didn't meet my dad, she would have graduated college, she would have moved back down home into South Philadelphia, and ended up teaching in a school in the middle of Philadelphia, and she would never have left South Philadelphia. I guarantee it. So I can completely understand the idea of someone from their generation staying put. And unfortunately, especially a female, staying in that range. I totally get it. It does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, your mother was also, your mother's Italian, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking,
half Sicilian,
it's
half
culture.
Polish.
It's your
She's,
fucking neighborhood. You don't go to other
like,
places.
Crazy Catholic.
Yeah, dude, fucking same
Yeah.
person.
You don't do this, you do that. You don't.
But was your mother the youngest child or no?
No, my mother was the oldest. Now, here's the thing. My mother, there was two girls. It was my mother and my Aunt Marie. Apparently my grandmother did have a miscarriage, and I don't remember if it was before or after my mom. I think it was after, not sure. But regardless, my mother was the oldest. However, like Italian families from that generation, even though my mother only had one sibling, they had 8,000 cousins.
Right.
And 90% of them were all named Teresa.
Yeah.
So like it was my mom was Teresa.
It's Marie in my family.
Yeah.
Everyone's named Marie.
But the what distinguished my mother from the other ones was the middle names. So my mother had 6 middle names. But her cousin, who also had 6 middle names, like 3 of them were different. And that's how you could tell. So and it was also by the mothers. So it would be like Rose is Teresa or Julia's Teresa or something like that. But it was the same thing.
Yeah. my mother was the youngest, so she was the one who was sheltered. But my Aunt Marie was the oldest, and she was the one, she was the one who would drive us to the shore if my mother wanted to go. But they were so far apart in age that all of her grandkids, which were my, first cousin once removed or whatever, they were all the same age as me. So I was closer to not closer, but they lived locally.
Yeah, you guys ended up doing more things in common together than...
Yeah. So, my immediate cousins,
you beat up that one kid from that other town shit.
Totally.
Right.
My closest related cousins, I didn't see nearly as... Even though I saw them pretty often because we're, an Italian family and you see everyone all the time. Not nearly as often as, my cousins who lived around the corner, who were actually further related to me, but just the same age because my mother and her sister were 16 years apart. So her grandkids were, all my age. My first cousins were all close to my mother's age. So
that's a huge
it's a big gap.
Yeah.
It's a big gap. But it was also a very distinct difference in, a very clear example of that whole, the first child behaves this way, the middle child behaves this way, the the family behaves this way going on. It was very distinctly that scenario, which doesn't really happen in my immediate family because of just really for the same reason, because of the age difference. There's 2 sets of kids. There's me and my sister who are 7 years apart, and then we're 10.
Seriously?
My one sister's 7 years younger than me. My next sister is 15 years younger than me, and then my brother is 20 years younger than me.
Yeah. Wow.
But they're 7 years apart, and me and the oldest of my sisters are 7 years apart, and then we're a decade apart. So there's essentially two totally different families.
Yeah, in my family immediately, I'm one of 5 children. I'm 34. Me and my oldest brother were 6 years apart because all the boys are cheaters. But my sister, she's 7 years apart from my oldest brother.
Yeah.
When you had that interim, there's all those people in between. There ends up being kind of I feel there's a closer tie between the ends of the spectrum. My sister and my oldest brother are actually way closer than anybody in between.
Right.
But I'm curious, do you feel that there's a link between you and your sister? How close do you really feel?
It's weird. It's
it's hard to really explain how close they are.
It's not like we talk all the time. Actually, it's not like we talk ever.
Well, because you were at a different place, but
we're still...
You didn't have a relation to trickle down. It was you and then her way later. There was no
yeah, there's there's...
My brother had my other brother, who had my other brother, who had me, who then had my sister.
Right. Yeah, there was a period of time where we had we were close enough in age that we sort of had things in common, but there was also 7 years apart. It's she didn't even watch the same kids shows that I did, and I remember that.
Huge.
And it's a weird fucking thing, right?
It's huge.
I grew up on Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and Square One, which I would probably still watch today. Square One? It was a math show. It was fucking. You should know that shit.
I don't know
Dun, 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 dun. Square One. No, it's not like Muzzy, which you also don't know.
I don't know that one.
And then Pinwheel, which was my shit.
Pinwheel sounds familiar.
Pinwheel, spinning around. It was like a.
Right? Like there was an association?
No, it was like a Canadian knockoff of Sesame Street that was broadcast
it
on
sounds
Nickelodeon.
familiar.
It was totally fucking Sesame Street, except
Okay.
instead of like everyone living in the same apartment building, they lived in a
Yeah.
castle, and it was.
Well, in my defense, like even between, because I was in a weird position because I wasn't the middle child. I wasn't the oldest. I wasn't the youngest. I was number 4, and so I really had this immense amount of influence from all angles. So
Right.
It more so obviously from my older. So between parents and then 3 older brothers, everything that each one of them, 2 years apart each, culturally went through, I discovered and went through. Now, and so I feel like I always acclimated upwards.
Right.
So for me growing up, like my sister, who is 1 year younger than me, we actually call us Irish twins, is, she was all into Saved by the Bell, and then when we got older, it was Melrose Place, or
See, I watched all that shit.
Fuller House, or whatever it was. And those were all shows that I was, like, I was exposed to, I was around that time.
Yeah.
But I didn't really delve into, like, they weren't, I was always, so I guess I'm in a what's the word I'm looking for,
Asshole.
yes, I'm an asshole. No, I'm a alternative to the normal.
Yeah.
An exception to the rule.
Yeah.
An exception to the rule, because my focus is, like, when my parents would have, like, other parents from the neighborhood to play bridge I would end up hanging out at the parents' table. I wouldn't, or at my older brother's table, something like that. So it's not really fair for me to have a judgment on this, because I didn't expose myself on purpose to those.
Did you say when your parents would have people from the neighborhood over to play bridge? Was that a sentence that you just said out loud?
Or pinochle.
Did you fucking
Or pinochle.
grow up with 87-year-old parents in the fucking 1800s in Great Britain? What the
Dude.
fuck?
My parents did what their parents did. My dad's parents, during the Depression, my grandmother ran a personal shopper business out of one of the leading retail stores in Manhattan. My grandfather was a traveling salesman who had his own handkerchief company.
Mm-hmm.
They belonged to the country club of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're the kind that spent the money on those things rather than other things. And of course my father's education and whatnot. So
Yeah.
my dad, that's what he took from it.
Right.
So
Yeah, he took the culture that he wanted to be a part
it
of.
was like, shit, my parents did bridge and
Yeah.
pinochle or whatever at the club on weeknights, so that's
Right.
what, and ironically enough, so now that's what my brother David does. My brother David is my grandfather, is my father, and my brother Chris belongs to a country club.
Yeah.
My brother, like, it trickles down, it really does influence. So
Yeah, no, totally.
No joke. I'm dead serious, they would have bridge nights in my house growing up.
That's weird.
It's,
We would have poker nights.
Poker. I would have rather had poker.
But,
now as an adult,
you know,
I would have rather had poker.
Conversely,
Bridge
like
was boring.
my grandmother's generation, my family, they were running numbers. So having gambling at our house
They were the bookies. Not
was
the
actually
books.
pretty
Right.
fucking
They were giving the horse
pretty
tranquilizers
natural
and
progression.
hormones. And they were shooting the slow ones.
leaving the head on the fucking porch of the guy who didn't pay up.
Right?
But yeah, like
I jokingly say this, but I really do feel I would have been much better suited towards
fuck yeah, like a
that
different
kind of-
generation. Yeah.
I know it sounds horrible to say because
No, it isn't, dude.
We are privileged enough to have been raised in the point where we can surpass that, and there are aspects of those lives, full disclosure, that are not desirable, that are not fantastical, that are not storied fiction that could be made into a movie.
Yeah.
There are things that are really bad about that stuff. However, that being said, my instinct reaction to a lot of things can maybe tend a little bit more towards that immediate gratification of breaking somebody's fucking kneecaps.
Yeah.
Versus trying to be a little diplomatic about something.
Dude, fucking... I was born... There's no doubt I was born into the wrong fucking generation. No doubt. Like, this world is not for fucking me. It just isn't. Like, it's not even like, it's this combination of disgust and disinterest. It's like,
I get so aggravated when people, it's like, everybody can always turn the needle back to you. Like, any argument you make, everybody can always find an example that fits you, that you're critical about it. But the point being, oh my fucking God, how angry I always get when people pick the wrong battles. And I learned this the hard way when I was younger. Of course, I picked the wrong battles. But you know what happened when I picked the wrong battles? I got my ass beat because of it. And I learned what battles to pick. I learned how to really approach things and focus on the right things versus the things that don't mean a fucking thing. And it's such a valuable lesson. It means the world to me. Like, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for that stuff.
Dude,
and I get so angry when people fight.
People don't fucking experience, dude. People don't... we just live in this Nerf padded fucking world right now. Is somebody made it? I don't remember who said it, but they made a statement the other day that was like, it really like resonated with me, and they were like, we are getting to the point where the people in power are going to come from a generation where they got participation trophies instead of learning what it takes to fucking work hard and get results. And it's this sensation of entitlement and this belief of, the world owes me because I'm special. And those are the people who are are coming into fucking powerful roles in the world now. And that's a scary fucking thing.
Those people are already part of our generation.
Oh, I know. I know.
Running companies already.
But I feel like the real generation that was impacted by that is just slightly. It's like we are, mid-30s. We are sort of more or less the generation that's taking over right now. Yeah. But I'm talking people who are like around 25 now, that 5 years from now are going to be doing the things that we're doing and in positions to like make calls that, maybe it's senior level management at the company they fucking work for, or maybe it's a government position. Like it could, it could be any of those fucking things.
Sending
and
emails about how much they're gonna fucking corrupt the system.
Right, and it's like,
make so much money from it.
People are inherently fucking selfish in the first place. Like that's a given. Maybe not inherently deceptive or mean or deceitful, but inherently selfish.
One is a byproduct of the other.
Yeah.
Deception is a byproduct of selfishness.
But when we actually get to that point where the people who fucking grew up with, like, I think you're special started with our generation. Like, you're special. You're you're individual. You're this. Suck a dick. No, you're not.
I trophy playing soccer one year, and in all sincerity, I was awful. They used to call me. I'm talking. I was like 6 or 7. They used to call me.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I didn't. There's nothing that you said to agree with, so I shouldn't have said agree. Continue your story, but I have a point that's related. I do agree that you were 6.
They used to call me the Hurricane because I'm dead serious. That was my nickname because I would caused a ruckus everywhere. I played more kill the guy with the ball than actual soccer.
That's sort of how I played.
Yeah, and it was like anybody. So I would just barrel through anything and anyone that was in my way.
I totally made up for my lack of skill with extreme levels of aggression.
Exactly. Yeah, they would they would pride me on it. They would give me accolades of saying, give me a nickname like you're the Hurricane. Like I was like I fucking yeah.
Yeah, but at least that's an effort. You know, like that's.
It is an effort, but I still got a trophy. And my dad is the only one. And all right, just on a side note, not because of this, because of many other reasons. Me and my father don't necessarily get along, but I have to give him credit. In certain things that he did. And one of the things that he did, maybe not correctly, but it had the result that he might have been looking for, is he would pull me aside at the end of the season. He didn't know in the middle of the season, but at the end of the season, and he would tell me, you suck. Like, you're bad. Like, you're just... And it wouldn't even be more than that. It wouldn't be an explanation as to why. It would just be like, boom, no, you're awful. So I would get this trophy, a participation trophy, and my dad would counter saying, no, just no, bad.
Yeah.
And thank God, in that regard, that was there. Because, like you said, we are on the cusp. We are that starter generation of that.
So I think... I
experienced it as a kid. You did too.
So, real quick side story. When I was about 6 or 7, I started playing baseball.
I agree.
I hate baseball. I hate baseball till this day. I like baseball hats. That's about as far as it fucking goes.
Curve your brims, people, by the way.
Oh, Jesus.
Curve your
This is a 3-hour show by itself, so let's not get into curved brims.
Curve your brims.
Fucking... So, you know, it's like I must have been like 6. I'm playing t-ball.
Yeah.
I fucking hit the thing, and you know, the coach and my parents are like, "All right, now you run." So I start running. I get to the first base, and they're like, "Keep running." So I'm like, holy shit, someone must be chasing me. Everyone's telling me to keep running. I fucking ran off the practice field and into the woods. And fucking, my dad tells the story, and he's like, you're just running into the woods, and you hear the leaves rustling, like, shh. You're fucking running off into the woods, you fucking 6-year-old moron. Like someone's coming after you. But... to circle back to what the actual point was, our generation got a trophy for participating. That happened. Like first place, second place, third place, 10th place, you still got a trophy because you were part of it. But the next generation down, they didn't fucking keep score, and that's what's different. It's
and also the trophies we got still had titles to them.
Yes. You would still get a last place trophy. Right. It would say last place, 10th place.
Absolutely. Like
it would be a smaller trophy.
Best runner. Like, and all the other kids who got better trophies than you would laugh at you, and that was still...
I remember playing soccer growing up. The first place trophy was a fucking giant trophy. The second place one was a little smaller. Third was a little smaller. Yep. And then there was 8 teams or some shit. I don't fucking know. And but they would gradually get smaller until is this a trophy, or is this like an action figure that somebody painted? Yeah, it was the size of a fucking thimble. But the difference is
it's a trophy, and you can use it to evenly slice.
10 years after that, there was no first place, second place. It was the team with the best record wasn't first place. Everybody got the same trophy because everybody's equal and everybody's the same and blah, blah. And it's like, dude, the real world, how the fuck are you prepared for the real world?
Some jackass looked at a World Cup or at a Stanley Cup or something and thought, well, the whole team got something. Well, no, jackass. Yeah. Everybody on that team earned the right to be on that team first, and then they made their commitments.
Yeah. The real world don't fucking work that way. And dude, I'm not a sports guy. I'm not. a sports. There are some sports that
I'm surprised I was able to pull out 2 different types of trophy names.
there are sports that I do really, really like, but I just don't have the patience to follow.
Yep.
I like
names, honestly, seriously.
I don't want to know every player on the team. I don't give a shit. You know, I love combat. You know, I love boxing. I love kickboxing.
Yes.
I love
Because it's awesome.
martial art. You know, like I'm very into that. I know. Yeah, I know. I just I probably know too much. It occupies too large a part of my brain.
But you still don't know
But
everything.
but I also participated in it, and I don't know everything about it. But you know, as much as I don't like sports, I do think there's a very, very. What I don't like about sports is somebody who's like 40 years old, fucking it ruins their day because their team lost. It's like, dude, grow the fuck up. You're not on team. When somebody's like, dude, we won. You didn't win. You're not on the team.
Right.
When the fuck did you know, fucking we won. Who won? We won. Who's we? You're not on the fucking team. You're not on the team. You gain nothing by this winning.
You introduced me to Vine.
To what?
Divine.
To Vine, yeah.
Yes. And those become kind of like a passing fad of an app.
Yeah.
One of the biggest earlier stars, as his star was rising, if you will, was Crystalia.
I love Crystalia.
He's fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
And a lot of his vines on there, you can look it up, are him reacting in certain scenarios
To people.
sporting events.
Yes.
Like
He's like, oh, it doesn't. Everyone's cheering, and he goes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at
It
all.
doesn't matter. And he's so
Dude,
intense
it
about
fucking-
it cracks
it
me
kills me.
up. It's so good.
All of that said,
Yeah.
I think,
I mean, there
And-
is something to be said about sporting and that kind of commitment.
but that's sort of where I'm going.
Find
You
your line,
learn-
find your-
You learn so many lessons by playing a sport, by being involved in a team, by learning how to work with other people. And even though I don't, you know, I fucking hated baseball. I still hate baseball. I don't, and like, before I hated baseball because like,
Baseball is so fucking boring.
it's the worst. It's not, it's,
Like, don't get me wrong, fine to play if you've got a case full of beer. For those who drink. But holy fucking shit.
I could understand the fun. Now I could sort of appreciate the fun of playing it, but watching it, what the fuck? Like 5 hours to watch nothing. But
Every single person who ever likes going to a park, going to see the ball game.
what's the score? 3-0. 3?
Yeah.
That's the best. That's not a fucking exciting
90%
sport.
About being in the place, drinking the overpriced beer and eating the overpriced shitty snacks. Not every single person you ask, guaranteed, it's going to be that
Yeah.
person. It's not going to be seeing it live.
But-
Because the rarity of an actual huge event, like somebody hitting a like pitching a no-hitter, or somebody hitting their 67th home run,
Dude,
is so
think
rare.
about that by itself.
It's-
The most exciting thing in baseball is a no-hitter. The game, the most exciting aspect, the most successful thing you can do as a baseball player is play a game where nothing fucking happened. Where literally nothing happened.
Right.
Is that a sport?
No.
Is it athletic? Sure. Does it? Could
It's
I?
as athletic as bowling with a less.
I agree with that.
No, it's with less running. all right. I disagree with that too.
If-
but it's not fucking far. Jeez.
I don't fucking pretend that I could fucking throw a 90-mile-an-hour ball. I don't pretend that I can hit a 90-mile-an-hour ball, let alone fucking see it coming at me.
Yeah.
But
True.
but
I'm exaggerating.
it's athletic. It's an extreme level of skill. It's an extreme level of talent. But is it a fucking
got people
sport?
like John Kruk who can play the sport professionally and be an all-star at it. What does that really say about the sport?
I mean,
But on the same token, the same thing can be said about UFC.
Roy Nelson,
Right.
who's fucking massively overweight and disgusting, but one of the best fighters in the world.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take away from his skill. But anyway, all of that aside,
Wrong.
all of that aside,
As I will always do.
all of that aside, there are fucking lessons to be learned. You learn about teamwork. You learn about working with other people. You learn about competition. You learn about what it feels like to win, what it feels like to lose. You learn to be a good winner. You learn to be a good loser. And if you take away knowing where you stand, you don't learn a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
You don't learn how to win. You don't learn how to lose. And you don't and more importantly, you don't learn how to rebound from a loss. And when life deals you a real fucking a real loss in life, anything, fucking someone breaking up with you and you don't know how to handle it, something which will happen, something happening at work, some guy on the street fucking, some guy fucking running his mouth to you in the street, you don't know how to handle a conflict, your parents being a fucking asshole, whatever it is.
Late teens or early 20s, and somebody will look at you in what you consider to be cross-eyed in a restaurant.
Yeah.
You will feel some sort of way about it.
And you won't know how to fucking handle it.
Yeah.
Because you've never, if you're not handed a loss, you don't know how to fucking rebound from a loss. And we're going from, we went from a place where winning is everything, which is not, I don't think that's the right approach, to a place where winning's important, but everybody gets, everyone gets rewarded because you tried. I don't think that's the right approach either, but it's closer to the right approach, to a place where nobody wins. Everybody's the same, and everybody gets a trophy, and everyone gets the same trophy, and that's the mentality of that is why. And dude, I believe this. That is why I'm going to espouse shit as if it's true, because I think it's true. That is why you have people now, capturing bullshit. That's what this whole thing's about.
We're capturing our own bullshit.
I am a professional. And I'm the authority. I have a microphone in front of my face. So
for the domain.
I'm the fucking expert.
Yes.
But
you shall listen.
That is why you have people now who feel they're owed. That is why you have people who are like, I should make fucking $15 an hour to work a minimum wage job. That is why you have people who think they need to be rewarded for doing nothing in life, or think that they need to be treated a certain way because they're just owed it. That's the mentality. And it's just this fucked up lesson that we've begun teaching people. And it's not about any of the hot button bullshit. It's not about race. It's not about religion. It's not about oppression. It's not about any of that shit. It's just about that general fucking mindset of like, not the mindset of like, why not me? I can do what you can do. But the mindset of, why not me? I should have what you have, even though you might have fucking worked for it. And that isn't the fucking right mindset. And there's way too many people who think like that. It's one of those things too, where you almost like see it happen to you. Like, I didn't fucking, like a conversation that I had with someone else earlier today about a dispute I had in my professional life. It's, I wasn't born, I'm the vice president of a company. And I'm not patting my fucking self on the back by saying that, but I wasn't. I am what I am, and I've worked my fucking ass off to get there. Like, I started in the industry that I'm in as an hourly employee. I became an hourly manager. I became an assistant manager, a general manager, a district manager, a director of operations, then a vice president. Then I left and went to a new company as a director of operations, became a vice president again. I worked my fucking ass off. I've been working in this industry since I was 14 years old. I've been doing this for 20 fucking years, but the point is that people don't fucking realize that I remember times when things were really fucking tough and I had to really struggle, or times that I couldn't fucking pay my rent. Yeah, paycheck to paycheck. I couldn't fucking pay my bills. I couldn't pay my rent. I had a fucking ex-fiance who opened credit cards in my name and ruined my fucking credit for 10 years. I couldn't fucking pay my car. I had a fucking car repoed. People don't fucking know that shit, but they look at you, like, even where I am now, people who don't know that, yeah, they do now. People look at that shit, look at where I am now, and they're like, well, fuck you. What do you know about, like, what it's like to struggle or this and that? Well, you don't fucking know. So it's like, it does go.
We've all had struggles. And and
Right.
I'm not trying to say this in a way of competition.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say this in a way of diluting your struggles.
Sure.
In Mask of Mine, I'm saying that we've each had things, especially within this room, within the two of us that I know specifically.
Right.
There are things that we've encountered that I would absolutely guarantee that 90% of the population of this country have not
Sure.
gone through.
Yeah.
Things that we've had to push through. And, one thing that I always have to struggle with in my own mindset is an elitism in the sense of, well, I was able to pull myself out. How can't you? And that is a different conversation, because that is something.
I get that.
It is circumstantial. I was able to do this for myself after I found myself so far down the fucking hole. Why
Sure.
can't you? But that's a different situation. That's a different conversation. In relation to what you're trying to talk about, as far as the equilibrium to
Is that a totally different conversation? I guess maybe the way you're phrasing it is a different conversation, but I think that there's a lot of people out there who look at somebody who has done something with themselves and don't see the work that was put in. And because, and I don't think this generally...
Some Ayn Rand territory right here.
Maybe, but I tend not to think this way about people in our age group, because there's less of a tendency to look at it that way. There is.
About our generation being the first.
But the next, I think it's a little bit, well, that's why I say not as much. It's there. But I think even more so with the next group down, because they don't look at the work that somebody put in, and they just assume that work wasn't put in. Well, and it's like, well, fucking, why you, asshole?
Well, this goes back to exactly the stereotype of the narcissistic egomaniacs that we end up working with on a regular basis on people who. But here's the fun thing:
people who come from the total opposite end of the spectrum, who were fucking born on third base, think they hit a fucking triple, and think that everyone they
come from greater, longer generations.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And those are from baby boomer generations who ended up making it big, and then generation passed down of funds.
It's a perspective thing too, because from the outside looking in, you don't know if the successful person was handed that or if they earned it, but you can tell by their work ethic. You could always tell by the work ethic, and you could always tell by...
There are litmus tests too.
You could tell by what their ego about their work is. You could tell by their openness to ideas. You can tell by how receptive or not receptive they are to...
Sorry, openness to ideas is so...
It's broad.
It's so...
And begging a whole different conversation.
Every single person that Nolan and I have encountered across, every single, no exaggeration, every fucking.
It might be an exaggeration.
No,
but there's an archetype, right? This is what we were
worked with in what I do. I do consulting in this, and every single one of them has been to a mind
for the most part,
to the point of exactly what you did.
But to play devil's advocate, sort of, yeah, right. I mean, you're doing what I'm doing. I paint with a broad brush. I'm like every single person, and I really mean like fucking a couple of the people, right. But every single person who pisses me off is what I really mean.
20 out of the millions.
Yeah, but those are the ones that stick because they're fucking memorable, because they're like fucking sandpaper on your skin.
So back to the
so there's
you were saying earlier though about people who deserve it versus earning it, and now you're starting to delve into a probability outcome. But I also try to take, as you do, the macro view of something.
Right.
And when you start getting into a point where there is still a finite group of development or a finite area of development, yet the scale of the amount of people trying to develop that one thing grows and grows and grows, but the actual finite amount doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, you can only create so much from one person's vision, from 10 people's vision, from 1,000 people's vision. Where do you draw the line? Where do you collaborate or compromise enough where it was like, okay, I can share with 20 people, I can share with 100 people, I can share with 1,000 people, I can share with 5 people. You know, and again, I repeat, I agree with you in your perspective that there are too many people to share the pot, right? The pot can only go so far, the goal can only fly so far. Only X number of people.
That's not my perspective, though. I don't think that there are too many people to share the pot. I think the pot gets bigger when people add to it. Like, I feel like you have to add to it before you take away from it.
All right, yes, but the pot can also only get so big.
I also think that there
You can only add so much to
Agreed.
before it overflows into explosion.
I also think that there are certain percentage of people who have way too fucking much of the pot.
I absolutely agree with that too, because there are too many people who are scooping out of the bottom of the pot as the pot is being filled. I absolutely agree with that too. The question I have is, you know, or not a question, but the idea that is, we are in a generational cycle where we are trying to understand the dynamic between the allowance of new development, right? So take the tens of thousands of people that are trying to all focus into one thing and give them the freedom or the ability or the understanding to create something differently, but they still have to get paid for that. So we have to find a way to cycle the funds to be able to allow them to do something, which is what we're seeing. We're seeing the independent, we're seeing the largest number of quote-unquote entrepreneurial type of businesses being started.
Right.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
More than any other time in history. Which, in all fairness, you know, human industry isn't that long.
Right.
But it's a huge leap forward. This is a greater expansion than the Industrial Revolution. It really is. Yeah. And so, at what point do you say, okay, we have enough money to allow for these number of people to try and succeed, with the expectation that maybe 10% of them will actually succeed, and then hire the rest of them as they go? Or do we still try to fight it and allow everybody to compete for the same pot of gold that has been in existence for the last 20 to 30 years? And I think it's a really interesting dynamic, because your argument comes into play of, I deserve it versus earning it, but there's not enough to go around for everybody to earn it. So where do we cross that line? How do we play towards that?
Yeah. But what I think part of it is,
I believe that. I'm just saying it's a devil's advocate argument.
So the whole perspective of this like social political Robin Hood mentality of like, let's take from the rich and give to the poor, and you know, rich are like, well, I've earned this money, you can't take it from me, and the poor are like, well,
that's,
you know, there's like
the biggest problem with it, by the way.
Well, that's
the entitlement.
On both ends.
Okay.
On both sides, but and I think a lot of people have way too fucking much.
Philanthropy to entitlement?
I don't know. It's hard. You can't put
a dollar amount on it, because every dollar amount is different.
How do you do it without individually fucking interviewing every single person? If you take a guy who is a multi-billionaire and started from nothing, earned all their money themselves, are they more deserving of the money than someone who was born into it? You know, like a fucking 9th generation fucking Rockefeller, or fucking, do they deserve it as much as the person who worked for it? My ethical standpoint would say no. But what are you gonna? How do you make? You can't make those distinctions.
Well,
but
that's the whole adage of you can't take it when you're dead.
But that.
Where's it gotta go?
That said, circling back to what you just said.
What Bill Gates Gates does, where he's just going to give it all to charity and give his kids $1 million each or something like
Possibly, but, circling back to the question that you posed, if the pot is only so big that only so many hands can fit in it, maybe it's you don't stick your whole fucking hand in. And all of those people who are working to get a piece of the pot, they will still get a piece of the pot. It's just everybody will get less of the pot. So that whole concept of well, these people should have less because other people should have more, that would almost happen naturally if the people who want more were more willing, and I'm painting with an extremely fucking broad brush right now, so don't hold me to the shit, but you see what I'm saying.
Dude,
where if more people,
that's all we're doing.
if
And
more
if anybody
people
thinks otherwise, then you have to reevaluate what you're listening to.
well, the one thing that offends me more than anything are people who are offended.
Right?
Anyway, what I'm saying is if more people from the entitlement generation were willing to do more about earning what they think they deserve rather than just trying to claim what they think they deserve, then there would be more hands in the pot, which isn't a bad thing. And they would all get a little piece, and the people with the most would get a smaller piece because there is no other option except to give a piece to those people who are working for it.
As you were talking, I was remembering an incident that literally just happened to me less than a week ago. I went to a store. I went to a place called Ants Pants.
Okay.
Which is a kind of brunch, Australian-based brunch place on the high end of South Street in
Right.
Philadelphia. It's a great place. It really is. The only problem with that place are all the fucking hipsters. But beyond that, it's a dichotomy of the hipsters are what's wrong with it, but the hipsters are what makes it great.
Right.
Because they make it all
Like Little Spoon.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So I went there, and it's not too far from where I live. So I went to Ants Pants, and I ordered my food, and it's a cash only business. And then every kid in there, and I say kid because I'm old enough to be able to say kid at this point,
Right.
was wearing a skull cap, wool hat.
Right.
But they were wearing it on the top portion of their head, so they looked like Smurfs.
Right.
The front tuft of their hair was sticking out.
Yeah, yeah.
Ears were exposed. It was like 67 degrees out.
Right.
And these are like thick wool hats. My bill was like 14 and change, or whatever it was, for ordering a breakfast sandwich. Not even. I give the dude some money. He goes to give me change. And it was like $4.55 was my change.
Right.
So the kid gives me $4.50. I get it's a cash business. I've been in the industry for a very, very long time. But my expectation isn't for the restaurant to assume that I don't give a fuck. It's for them to give me the money in full, and for me then to tip you appropriately.
Right.
So the kid gives me $4.50.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, and I count it, and it's easy to count because it's 2 fucking quarters. And I look at the kid, unaggressively, not passive aggressively, but unaggressively, I just kind of stick my hand out for the rest of the change, but with the existing change still in my hand.
Right.
And he looks at me, dumbfounded. And I said, the rest of my change, please. And he looked at me, and he said, you want the 5 cents? With that level of question on his tone. And the only thing that I could think of was...
Like you were an asshole for wanting
Right,
5 cents.
I was a dick for wanting what was technically mine.
It's a matter of principle. It's like not even about the 5 cents
It's
at that
not
point.
about the 5
It's
cents.
about the fact that you're a fucking dickhead and you clearly want the 5 cents and
Right.
now you can't fucking have it.
Yeah, and the kid looked at me because to him, 5 cents was nothing.
Yeah.
That I clearly remember, and thankfully I do, because it still allows me to live the way that I live now. I clearly remember when 5 cents meant the difference.
Right.
Alright, we've got a lot of stuff that we need to bench, obviously,
Yep.
for the next conversation. But This was a lot of fucking fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.